everybody. Howard Lindzon here. Trends with Friends. I'm typing a tweet. What? What happened? The music is still. I just got. Hello?
Hello.
We can hear you. We can hear you. You're on
I know,
live.
but the music's still playing.
Oh, it is playing? Okay. I
think
don't
it's
hear.
just in your ears.
I think that's in your head, Howard.
Oh, shit. That is very funny. I love that song. It's just playing in my ears.
It needs a bit more cowbell.
We need more cowbell.
Cowbell.
All right. AI Whisperer, keep it down over there. Welcome, everybody. Trends with Friends. We are February. Ides of February. Is that a thing? We are in February, shortest month of the year, which means this is a good month. Less Trump. The 2 days less of the guy. Hey, everybody. Special guest today wearing the Liquid Death hat in the middle in the Hollywood Square. Paul Lind. That's for people who can take that reference. Michael Lazerow, and to his right, his lovely partner and wife of 60, 70 years, Kass Lazerow. Did I pronounce that right? Kass?
Cass, that's right.
Cass?
I like it with that Canadian accent. That's how you do it.
We rarely have such good friends. Phil's my shrink, and so the reason he's on the show is so that he can't. Everything we say here is confidential now. In the preamble, because he's a paid psychologist. He's been my shrink now for 25 years. We've shared beds together in Soho. We've yelled at each other. He's fired me. I've fired him. And here we are. And for the occasion, Kass and Mike, he did not wear a hoodie. He dressed like an adult today. And I doubt
These are special guests that you have here today.
Just very
This
special.
is royalty. This is love right here. Going all the way back. For real.
They, for some unknown reason, beknownst to human beings, decided to write a book in the year 2025. And it's hysterical, mainly because I'm in it, and I endorse some of the truths and the embellishments from Kass and Mike. They've seen me at between Mike, Howard, and Phil here. We've lost about 90 pounds since we first met. I would say
at least.
Yeah, the over/unders on 90 pounds. We were beefy.
Howard, I had 35 pounds on me. Don't forget me.
Really? So
Yes.
125.
Yeah.
125. Wow. You were hefty.
Thank you.
Did no one ever intervene and just say something? Because Mike and I carried it well. I mean, I guess we should have said something. Well, congrats to you on losing 35 pounds. You are thin, and you're a pickleballer and a tennis baller and a golfer and a mom. And much like my wife would call a book, her first book, your book is called Shoveling Shit. That would be Alan's life with Howard. And you've written as a tribute to...
Hers would be putting up with shit.
Hey.
Dealing with shit.
Speak when spoken to. Shoveling Shit, a love story. I mean, Alan, we just giggle at this because it's, the title's everything, but the book is amazing. This was an era, 2000, I think you cover Buddy Media, but this was an era of entrepreneurship, much like I think today with AI, was just worlds colliding. This is where I met Mike in the CBS office. We got many stories. Eventually, the two of them started Buddy Media, went on to sell it to Salesforce, or acquired by Salesforce for $800 million. And somehow, even though raising money at a $2 million valuation, which is sacrilege in a YC era, still managed to make a few shekels and talk about it here, live to talk about it here. And they're investors in Liquid Death. Mike wears the hat. I am a lucky investor. Mike brought me into that deal. And all right, so Mike and Kass, welcome to Trends with Friends.
Thank you for having us.
You are true friends who know how to ride trends. Next to Kass is Michael Parekh, the AI Whisperer. What a time to be alive if you're Michael Parekh. He lived through this at Goldman Sachs in the early era of the internet in the 80s and 90s as head of Goldman Research. Went into tech hibernation, waiting for something that would be just as exciting as the early internet. Started writing a Substack quietly. I found out about it through, well, probably because I'm friends. And I said, Mike, what the hell? You get no crypto, no nothing, no. You love Web 2, but then AI. Woo! And so we're lucky to have him here. And then Phil. I don't know. We never tell him when we're going to do this show. These are spur of the moment, and somehow, no matter where we are, he shows up in Riverside. I think he's just a Riverside stalker. And so Phil Pearlman wearing a shirt. I bet you that is not a full T-shirt underneath. Very much like Hulk Hogan, that is a partial T-shirt with a collar.
Yeah, so you could see my sexy belly button.
Anyways, all right. So everybody knows everybody. Let's get into it. Phil, what do we got?
So we're going to talk to Michael Kass. By the way, great to have you. Despite being, you guys are killers as entrepreneurs. I've had a chance to peruse the book on PDF last night. It looks fantastic. There's a couple questions I have for you. Kass, amazing to see you. You look fantastic, by the way. And the thing about you guys is that these are like killers, but then they're lovely people at the same time. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't add up to me from an entrepreneurial basis. Like, you have killers and then they're animals to know. And like Howard, you deal with them all the time, right? You deal with all these entrepreneurs. They're killers, which is great, but then they're animals as human beings. It's quite the opposite with the Lazerow duo here. They're lovely, lovely people. And then somehow they manage to be killers as entrepreneurs at the same time. Somehow, I don't understand it, but we'll ask about it today. We're going to start with Palantir because these guys blow it out. Their CEO is incredibly, straightforward. I mean,
Alex
he's just
Karp, mad scientist.
We're gonna, we're creating a shadow government. We don't really care. And, we're doing it with a smile. So Michael Parekh, I'm just going to differentiate between the two of you. Yeah, look at that chart. So we caught this morning's open. If you look at the top right, you could see that candlestick up at 105. This thing gapped up on earnings again, making an all-time high. It's going crazy. I wonder if it could be, the first $10 trillion company as the government just becomes more sort of passively intrusive in our lives. Parekh, what's happening here?
Trend is your friend indeed here. I mean, multiple trends, your friend, and good numbers. I mean, they have good numbers. You've got as Howard has said many times, a charismatic, very clear-spoken and media savvy CEO, and a huge short interest as well. So all of that is, and obviously huge tailwind with all the things that are going on in the terms of the change of government, which is a massive trend in Palantir's favor, obviously, in terms of what they do and where their core customer base, not just in government now, but also on the corporate side. And he has also positioned the company well vis-a-vis China, which is front and foremost in terms of the U.S.-China thing. And they're one of the tips of the spear. So if all of that gives you a company that today is a market cap bigger than Disney, American Express, etc. So I think 70, 80 times price to sales, but those are details.
They're details. I think what continues to fascinate me before we get to the most, and I guess this could have been the most interesting chart of the world, even going into earnings. What's interesting, I don't know if we can pull up the chart, 54%. Again, there's a lot going on in the markets right now, but 54% of Stocktwits. We did a poll yesterday about 11,000 people, unique people on Stocktwits. So these are people that are watching the stock intently on Stocktwits, which is fascinating to me because it's just one data point, but 11,000 people that stare at this stream all the time. 54% were calling for a gap up. Now, again, momentum breeds momentum and trends are friends. And we know all this. And it seems obvious in hindsight that 54% of Stocktwits users are bullish on the stock, but called for a gap up. Okay, so they're benefiting from the same things that are happening on Stocktwits, right? They're reading this data. They could be scraping our data. We don't know, but they basically are a shadow software company, almost the opposite of something like Cloudflare, which is there to protect us theoretically from companies like Palantir scraping our data. So we have this massive war going on, and Mike and Kass can comment on this too, where you have cybersecurity stocks at all-time highs. You have Cloudflare, a crazy valuation, but an incredible company, helping companies like Stocktwits keep Palantir off our site and data, theoretically. But then you have the government maybe overruling all this in favor of Palantir to be this shadow software company. But I think the most important part of this story is Alex Karp tells a very clear story, whether he goes on Bill Maher or on Good Morning America or on CNBC. And he's got this very simple story, right? That he's pro-America, and this is the right time for this type of company. And it's part meme. No matter how you slice these numbers, guys, this is part Trump coin, part meme coin, at least, and definitely part executing fundamental story. So it's one of those perfect times for a stock like this. They continue to execute. Everybody, it's a little bit shadowy on what the actual business is. And so you can't put your finger on all the levers that they're pulling, much like a Google. So they have many levers to pull. And then thirdly, it's at the right time where people like a story more than they like fundamentals, as we've seen in the crypto world. So that's Palantir. It's not even our most interesting chart of the week, but Kass or Mike, anything you want to chime in?
Yeah, I just point out that, is there any company more ingrained in this new establishment in Washington? JD Vance was a protege of Palantir co-founder.
Oh, wow.
Peter Thiel, who obviously has, supported the president longer than anyone in our industry. And, Thiel and Musk co-founded PayPal, and, Thiel is, has backed everything that Musk has done. And
except SpaceX.
So is there any better, or is there any more ingrained company into kind of whatever is going on in Washington? And a lot of their revenues come from governments and our government.
Yeah. I think what's amazing about this stock is an 8-bagger recently.
10x over 2 years.
10x over 2, but then only one really, there's one really big drawdown, one in August of last year. So great story. What do we got next, Phil? Congrats, Palantir shareholders. All right, listen. I can't own them all. I think it's in my index. Yeah, I own the index, so I think I'm benefiting from it. But I sold it in the high 20s personally. So what do I know? All right, what's next?
So we do have the most interesting chart in the world, and we chose this one over Palantir before they reported. And I think it makes a great case, and it's a more subtle case. Stock's up, like, I think last time I looked, it was up $3-4 today. So it's breaking out from the new high that it made 2 days ago. It's Google, most interesting chart in the world. I mean, one is just quietly breaking out to new highs, even in the midst of the whole DeepSeek and tariff emotional roller coaster that we've had sort of in the last 2 weeks.
And here's why I chose it. I generally choose these for us. So it's this is what you call the Howard taint. But anyways, we've had Solana as the most interesting chart of the world. We've had, I don't know what else. Sorry, I'm having a senior moment. But Google's here now because it's the opposite of Palantir in many ways. It's very anti-establishment for whatever reason. I mean, the government's after him. Trump hates him. People don't trust search. I still do. But I'm saying people don't trust search. People don't trust FANG. So what I think is fascinating about this is they've had to live through everything that this presidency has complained about, right? From whether it's hiring practices at DEI to overseeing our data, but I don't know if we have a longer time frame. But this has been my favorite stock for a very long time, Apple and Google. And why Google? And Michael will go deeper on this. Why? Because they're perfectly positioned for, not perfectly positioned as much as maybe a Spotify or Netflix, which are very much, or Reddit, which are very much one-trick ponies. But Google with YouTube has the ultimate AI company, and Google very early with their with Gemini and their DeepMind were early players here. They're on all sides of AI, from owning the content, from owning the apps, to owning the data, to having great relationships with end users with Gmail. So they own that 8 to 80 app user crowd. So while not as sexy as a Palantir, when I go to sleep at night, I know exactly what I'm getting. And I think what's interesting is, despite the tariffs and bans out to get them, the stock still breaking out to all-time highs. So I think there's so much pressure on this company, self-induced a lot of it with the money spent on the Waymos and all these crazy projects. So it's a black box in its of its own. But I think if you're going to own tech and you want to simplify your life, I've always said Google is my ETF, has been that sleep at night product. Now, obviously, has underperformed Facebook probably and underperformed, most of the FANG, but I think its time is still ahead. Michael, take it from there. I think your mic's off. Not just me.
I've had a flag in the ground on Google for almost 2 years saying this is going to be one of the most underappreciated AI beneficiaries at scale on the planet. That continues to be the case every month. They continue to not just come from behind, but actually lead on so many different fronts. Current thing is AI reasoning, where DeepSeek, rattled the world with R1. OpenAI just introduced Operator and deep research. Everyone likes the word deep now. And Google has their own version. And my point to your key underlining, Howard, they are the one company with not just the technical chops, the chips. They have their TPUs, which is as in many cases as powerful and entrenched within the Google ecosystem as NVIDIA is on the outside. They have Gemini and all of its capabilities across language models, reasoning, agents, and so on, everything else that's to come. And the most important, they have several billion people that they reach every day, obviously through YouTube, Howard, as you pointed out, but they've got at least 6 to 10 properties that have anywhere from 500 million to 1 billion plus daily users, which means distribution. If you look at the Mag 7, other than Meta, through their 3 or 4 properties and Apple, everyone else has to find distribution some way. And if you're talking about AI products, services, capabilities, distribution is going to be very expensive. TikTok didn't become TikTok, by the way, just as a side note, just because it was an awesome product, which it was for ByteDance. ByteDance spent billions of dollars on Facebook, Meta, on Snap, etc. Since 2018, many times accounting for 10 to 20% of Meta's revenues. And that was a customer acquisition, a distribution. And Google doesn't have to spend that to distribute Gemini. Huge leg up. And AI is just getting started. So yeah, I continue to think this is one of the best positioned names. Not a stock recommendation, but I just wanted to agree with it. But it's
as we always say here, this is not financial advice, but it is. No, I'm kidding. All right, Kass, you run a family, a business, write books, hire, fire. Where's Google fit into your life?
I mean, I think I do everything on it, right? So it's our email platform, YouTube. I see our kids on it nonstop. That's all they do. I don't know if you see Max on it, but
yeah,
they
I
don't
see
even
Howard
go to
on it too.
You see Howard on it too.
Yeah,
they don't even go to TV anymore, right?
I don't.
This is all they're doing. And so
this is my TV. A year ago, this was not even in my YouTube TV, was not even in my vernacular.
Exactly.
And now it is my home screen. And that is something. That is something. Because
we replaced cable with
I
Google
truly didn't see that one coming. Where I was hoping for fiber, as Michael will say, like fiber, Waymo. These are like the rocket ship ideas, space, blah, blah, blah. But Google fucking TV. I mean, YouTube TV, every night I get, excuse me. Anyways, Mike, one more. And then
just one more. My only advice for Google at any level, Sundar board, start spinning off the units. Start spinning off YouTube. I don't care if it's 10%, 20%, 30%. Just start spinning it off. Do it. You don't have to wait for the government.
This is the moment.
This is the moment. That will give investors spin off Google Cloud, spin off Gmail. Keep control. Just do it. This is a $10 trillion company right here. If you start to do that, and one of the Mag 7 is to do this.
If you spin off just one more thing on good. If you spin off, if we look at Spotify and Netflix and Reddit, we spin off those three companies that are very much focused on own content. Like Spotify, even with the lowest margins, hit an all-time high today, right? Like $100 billion company. I think I called that at 20 billion on my newsletter. I struggle with Spotify above 100 billion because, again, margins. But with Google and YouTube, between real content and not, if they spin that off, that is a $700-800 billion asset that's just being mispriced underneath the company. And I honestly think Google doesn't skip a beat because analysts will still buy the stock because it'll help them price Gmail, Android, and Gemini much better. But anyways, that's
my
armchair quarterbacking.
my former firm can help structure it so many different ways. Okay, they can keep 90% of it, just like Masa has 90% of ARM. Okay, and it's a $150 billion company up from 40 billion at the IPO less than 2 years ago. That's just structuring. I'm just saying, give investors an optionality to participate in all the pieces of AI that Google has an opportunity. And right now, it's just one big monolith Google. And this is the one single company. I've been talking about spinoffs for Max Evans for a long time, but this one is front and center, the biggest beneficiary of that. DeepMind, AlphaGo, on the medicine healthcare side, just extraordinary opportunities.
Timing matters, right? Like with Spotify and Netflix at peak valuation today, right now, they could probably get this deal done with Goldman in a week. Michael, anything to add before we move on?
Mike Lazerow.
The only thing I would say is, on the flip side, there are three reasons why they're awesome. Digital advertising, which all ads are digital, right? Strategic diversification, which kind of funnels all the data, and consistent innovation. So it's a company that's continued to innovate. And if you think about Google as a whole, they know what you're writing, who you're talking to, where you're driving, where you live, where you're going, when. And so if data is what powers the future, which it is because of AI, by keeping it together, they have the ability to really kind of change behaviors in a way that no company can. Google at any point can change our behaviors, and they could do it anywhere in the world. And so if they do break it up, you have to figure out a way to globally keep the data asset, this data exhaust, 100% intact.
That's very doable. But the thing is, Mike, to your point,
it's a structure.
It's a structure. It's structuring. And also remember, they're already getting balkanized. EU has regulations, Asia has regulations. So it can all be done in that context. That structure, that makes lots of lawyers, lots of investment bankers, my former partners at Goldman, very, very happy. They've got lots of ideas on that front. They can help.
Phil, anything you want to add here, buddy?
Yeah, before we move on, I just as an investor, I have some questions for Parekh, and I'm just calling him Parekh today because Mike's on the show. So just not to confuse the two Michaels. But I have some questions for Parekh specifically from an investor's point of view. Number one, before I ask, shout out to you, because last week we were talking about, after the DeepSeek thing, we were talking about which AI companies are going to have a hard time, which companies are going to benefit. And you specifically shouted out Google as totally benefiting no matter what, basically is what you said from my recollection, which is awesome. So thank you for that. And you probably calmed some viewers, some of the emotions of some viewers at that time on a Tuesday morning, the day after. Okay, two questions for you. One, they've been doing these LLM learning models or whatever. They've been doing it forever with all of our information with half of the people on the freaking earth. Is that, what are they, a 30-year-old company, and they've been doing it almost forever with all of that data. So they have a head start. Is that true?
Utterly true. They were AI before AI was cool for a long time. Everything that we use in Google, the way Google search works, your search in Gmail works, everything that, you find amazing things in your document. That's all machine learning, deep learning, everything. They've been doing AI for a long time. Not only that, they basically their 8 engineers kicked off the current generative AI wave because of a Google AI paper called "Attention is All You Need." invented transformers, which is the fundamental architecture bit that is the T in ChatGPT from OpenAI. They've been inventing all of this stuff all along. They have the world's they're the one technology company that when they went public in 2004, they said all our engineers have 20% time. They've to do whatever they want. Most of the products that Kass was talking about, Mike would talk, Gmail, etc. Those things were invented on 20% time. Where the engineers could basically cook up whatever they wanted. Yeah. Extraordinary. They are the epitome of bringing the best research scientists on the planet, giving them an opportunity, all the tools, all the money, all the resources to just dream and build, and then build it at scale. So they've been doing it for a long time. AI is just the beginning. So for me, Google is just, everything they've done is a dress rehearsal to what's ahead. And right, for investors to get advantage of that, I think they should be spinning off various pieces. Sorry, go ahead.
Second question. Okay, and this just has more to do with.
And Phil, this is why it's the most interesting chart, because I also think it's the poorest storyteller in this new world. They are actually the poorest storyteller. And Kass and Mike are storytellers. We, as entrepreneurs, storytelling's everything, as Alex Karp has proven. And I think shame on them for not recognizing this, right? Like we talked about.
What story do they tell? I mean, any story they tell doesn't sound great.
So it's almost like we take them for granted. It's almost like we take it for granted. It's so embedded in our lives.
Stories, right? Like we're lower class rich here. Mm-hmm. Like the people who really have money other than Elon. And so Google, for them to pound their chest, it just brings attention to really how they can weaponize this data.
So you're saying it's good that they don't tell stories.
I mean, I wish they told better stories, but
they'd have a story to tell if they spun off YouTube.
All right, Michael, what story do they tell that resonates?
I have a story.
We have your data and we're going to get you to do what we want you to do.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're better than Palantir. We're even bigger.
I have a story for A24. Those are stories for A24 horror stories. All right.
I have a story. Here's a story for you, Lazerow. So recently, Apple has been fumbling. Right? They don't, they released this Apple Intelligence and it's arguable whether it's ready for prime time yet. Right? I mean, I personally don't want it because it's intrusive.
Yeah.
And it's asking me dumb questions that I don't want to, it's interrupting me. So I totally got rid of it for now. I'm sure I'll come back to it. But here's my question for Parekh. So Android has an opportunity at the high end of the market at this moment. It's always been Android is the lower end of the market. If you're in some third world country, you can use Android. But now, sorry if you're sorry to all the
Michigan or Michigan.
You have a Pixel. I'm really sorry. I just said that.
Or Michigan or Ohio.
That's just
Michigan.
That's just 70% of the smartphone users on the planet. He didn't insult anybody.
Right. No offense intended. But I'm sure you love your kids.
Phil's doing the insulting for me. This is fantastic.
No, but at the high end of the market, do they have an opportunity now to come up with something on their mobile operating system that is just so like what they used to say about Apple? You just turn it on and it works. If they had something where it was I'm so disorganized, but if it did all my scheduling for me, it was hey, you have an overlap here. I'm going to reschedule this guy for Thursday afternoon. If they started doing that for me, I would switch over to this. Now is the moment to get me. That's what I'm saying.
Phil, what you described is the biggest mano-a-mano battle and opportunity ahead for Google and Apple. These two companies that have been partners right now to date, right? Because Google pays Apple $20 billion a year to position search in all the Apple devices, 2.3 billion devices. And that is itself at risk right now in the remedy phase of the antitrust trial against Google. Who knows what that happens under the Trump administration. But, and Apple right now is basically lobbying the government and the Justice Department saying, hey guys, don't separate us. We want that deal. The reason I'm going into the weeds here is that, yes, if these two companies competed, the opportunity you're describing is fundamentally the opportunity only two companies on the planet have, which is bake AI as it grows into every application and into the operating system, into the hardware, into the software. And these two companies, Google through Android and Chrome, don't forget, Chrome OS, that there are Chrome PCs and so on, and Apple through its 6 or 7 operating systems, they have the opportunity to build that stuff in. Apple, just so you know, because today I talked about one of my children, Google. My other one is Apple. I'm very bullish on Apple as well on AI as an under focused opportunity. Apple starting in April, is going to be releasing iOS 18.4, which will exactly have some of the things you're talking about.
Yeah.
There'll be much more ample intelligence, very practical features in almost every app you use on Apple phones and Apple devices that will do the kinds of things you're asking for. Hey, help me do that. It's time for you to do this. It's time for you to do that. Hopefully without nudging, with nudge controls. Google has the same opportunity. But that stuff has not yet been built because the technologies were not quite there. The software, the AI capabilities, LLM, all these buzzwords. But now they're happening, and the compute is coming together. So yes, over the next 2 or 3 years, we will get to some of the aspirations we had for this software and the technology to do stuff for us.
What's really fascinating, we'll move on, Phil, is we've had this discussion for 20 minutes with the Google chart up. And think about all we've talked about happening at Google, which is no one at Google cares about, but like kind of happening in the background. And we forgot to even talk about the government, the 30% drawdown there when the government filed this lawsuit. So it's just like, this is why stocks are so interesting to people. It's like, we have the discussion. They know where they're going. We know we have armchair quarterback where they could go and what they should be doing. And the market, the millions of participants that make up the price every day, you can't fucking make heads or tails of the last 8 months. Yes, it's gone, if you scale back, it's gone from 140 to 200, but there's been a lot of fucking stress in between that move. And so that's the fascinating part of this type of discussion. The trend is still on. There's just, I think they just don't have that smooth story for what we talked about here, whatever, for good or for bad. There's some things they could probably do to smooth this out. But it's the opposite side of Palantir. Look at this 30% drawdown because, the government, doesn't like their deals versus Palantir, which has stayed on the side of the government and ridden that train. All right, Phil, what's next?
Okay, so let's talk to Michael and Kass. Thank you for your patience. And just bearing with all of our inane ramblings.
No, we love
for
this.
the first half hour here. And you guys are coming out with a new book called Shoveling Shit, and which I love the title because it's just silly. And you guys are a little bit silly, and we'll get to that. How y'all doing?
Doing good. Doing really good, Phil. It's nice to see you after all these years.
He looks good, huh? He looks good.
Yeah, he does look good. He looks fit.
He's fit.
Yeah.
You
say that with jealousy, right?
Keep
Howard?
coming. Just keep talking, Kass.
He's a machine. I can't keep up with him. Like I if I ate like him, it'd be, that's the full Monty when you can get the eating in. All right. So next first question for these kids.
Okay. So really interesting. You guys have been entrepreneurs for a long time, super successful, have really worked as a complementary team together. It's like we're building companies, we're parenting, all that stuff. What is the book? Like, what is Shoveling Shit about? Like, how did it come about, and what is it doing? What are you saying?
So we thought these next 50 years will be about impact, right? So we were going to do a podcast. It seems like a lot of work. You guys tell us, but we wanted to get all of our cheat codes. So like we have 50 plus cheat codes in this book for entrepreneurs. And we were hoping to get it into the hands of as many entrepreneurs as possible and just help them avoid the mistakes we've made, really think through some of the strategies and learn some of the lessons that we have an easier way.
And one of the messages which Howard knows, which you all know, is being an entrepreneur, working for yourself, is both miserable and full of suffering and awesome. It is the worst way to spend your day because shit hits the fan and you just have to shovel it away. And there's nothing we'd rather do. So in that misery is where we found our purpose. It's where we found our relationship. It's where we made a lot of money. It's kind of where our life took off. And we wanted to write a really raw look at that, not just from a hustle culture, right? You go to Instagram, all these guys are driving Lamborghinis, living in their parents' basement, but really like the real life of like, what are the costs to your business, to you and the business? And, you know, we've seen what Howard's done with Stocktwits and how hard it's been and where he is now. And every entrepreneur we talk about, you know, when they see the title, they're like, oh, that's my life. Like shoveling shit is my life and I love it, which is why it's Shoveling Shit, a love story.
Love story.
It's a very positive message, but it captures the misery that's in our lives.
Beautiful. And so so from each of you, if you had to pick one cheat code that is your all-time favorite from the book, what, Cass, go first. What's your favorite cheat code?
First 4 letters of culture is cult. So you got to build a positive cult. So any entrepreneur out there that doesn't think about how they're hiring, who they're hiring, and the impact of those first 10 hires is going to fail. So you've got to look at it like you are creating the best cult that you can. And then think about touch points all the way from hiring to firing, really. Every touch point counts. How you handle things, how you communicate, all of it.
And so you learned in some senses, you had to learn the hard way with that too, right? Like you had people
Big time.
that you wanted to love, but they were terrible for you or whatever.
Or even you have the first 10 hires who are wearing multiple hats, and then you find your product market fit and you hit the gas, and then those 10 people are either not in the right role, so you've got to moneyball them, or they don't scale. Right. And now you have cultural anchors that you've got to let go. Those are hard things to do, but you got to do them.
How do you let people go? How did you build that muscle of letting people go? Because I get that from, I have clients who are entrepreneurs, and that's like, that theme comes up all the time, that they have difficulty letting people go.
Well, you have to be comfortable with the uncomfortable part of letting someone go, right? So the first time Mike we told him to go in and fire our only salesperson.
Do we have to go here? Does it always
Yes.
have to go?
The first time,
suck at letting people go.
The first time and the only time we let him do this, as in I let him do this, he came out and had given the guy a raise and a title promotion.
He made really good.
Well, it was me. I mean, it was me. It worked out okay.
Yeah, look what happened.
Yeah.
I believe
so you build the muscle, Phil, by doing it over and over again. And you've got to be short and sweet and compassionate about it. Right. So you're not going in there to kind of like justify your reasoning and things like that. Right. You've made a decision. And as an entrepreneur, you will know in your gut when someone is not working out. You'll see it with your other teammates. You'll see the drag, and you'll see that they're not taking stuff off of everyone's plate.
And you got to listen to yourself, right?
Yes. Yes.
Like you don't want to listen to yourself. You don't want to admit it to yourself because you love the person in a certain way.
Exactly. Yeah.
I totally feel that. Okay, Laz, what's your favorite cheat code from the book?
So for me, it's all about focus. I have a lot of ideas, and as Cass knows. And so how, with limited resources, limited people, whether you're a restaurant, whether you're a tech startup, how do you focus an organization? How do you focus yourself? And we spend a lot of time, like a whole chapter, on how to focus, tools to use. We got a question from Mr. Parekh.
No, I want you to finish. I was just raising hand for the next question. Sorry.
Okay. And so, what we didn't really see our businesses accelerate until we realized that we needed to focus the organization, figure out where do we want to go. If you don't know where you're going to go, you're never going to get there. Mm-hmm. And then it's, what are the 5 things that you need to do to achieve that vision? And then what's potentially going to get in the way, the obstacles, and then how are you going to measure those things? Because a lot of startups don't know that whether they've succeeded or failed because they never set out with goals, and they never said success looks like this. Because what we realized is, like, Buddy Media got to 50 million in sales in 3 years after selling the first product, like the Facebook page management system, which became a social marketing system. And so
by the way, I just want to interrupt for half a second. To the viewer who doesn't know this, These guys figured out Facebook before everybody else.
Yeah,
Like that's what they
and
did.
that was
It
it. We'll go backwards
awesome.
a little bit, and to bring it together, we'll go backwards, but keep going, Mike. We'll bring it back.
Go ahead,
why it
Laz.
was
I just
such an
wanted to
important
say
company.
that in case
You know,
anybody's
I'm
doubting
done.
anybody's
Like,
bona fides here and who's
so
writing a
we've
book.
done-
These guys,
now-
they cracked that code. Sorry.
We've
Yeah.
started all these companies. We've invested in 100 other entrepreneurs, many of them with Howard. And the number one reason why companies don't work is they're just not focused, or they're focused on the wrong stuff, or there are things they should focus on, which they didn't focus on. Don't forget, when Facebook went public, they lost 50% of the value because they didn't focus on mobile.
Right.
Major strategic error.
Because they would see a coffee store and a girl would be on her laptop on Facebook. Like
Yeah,
the
but
mobile
once they
hadn't taken
focused
up.
on it,
Yeah.
right? Once they said, "Oh, we're going to focus on it," the rest is history, right?
Yeah.
Go ahead,
And
Parekh.
I just had a quick question since we're talking cheat codes. I am fascinated by a husband and wife team that's so successful.
Very rare.
What's
Very
the
rare.
cheat code? What the cheat code for working? Because my wife and I have tried for 20 years. A couple of
It's
businesses.
Instagram AI women. The
So
cheat
I
code
just-
is Instagram AI women.
Other than honey or right, I don't know what else is the cheat code.
You got to be in different lanes. So this would never ever work if we had overlapping skill sets, and we just don't. So we complement each other very well. It's like picking a co-founder, right? So, I do all the operations, I'm in the weeds, I'm in the details, and Mike's really looking at a bigger picture, the vision, how do you monetize anything? But that's the first part. And the
And
second
selling
part
shit.
is
like I've
Yeah, and
always,
selling,
I've always been a
you're always
sales
selling.
guy,
right.
which
But
every founding team needs.
that's right. And then the second part is you cannot take anything personally, right? So I think a lot of couples try this and take everything personally. And we just don't, which has actually benefited our personal relationship. So
That's why
we're
Phil
just-
and I, as husband and wife, can't start another company. Guy's a fucking he's a pup. Takes
Yeah, what
everything
was it like
personally.
firing Howard, Phil? I know
Dude,
you
wanna
had
know
a-
that.
we were friends, and then I was like the first employee and an investor at Stocktwits, and then I just fucking hated him. Like he was the CEO, and we almost came to fisticuffs. And then when I left, we became friends again. It was lovely.
And for the
so that's great.
younger people in our audience, fisticuffs means punches.
And by punches, I mean we only had falafel and crepes together, not the third thing, pizza. So that's fisticuffs for us. We only
We had
completed two
pizza and
two
soda.
of the recycled.
No
So-
dumplings.
No, that
No,
back then it wasn't
no.
near my place in Soho. But go ahead, Cass.
I was going to say, well, we all had dumplings together,
Oh.
Phil and Howard, Mike and I.
Spent
That
a-
was fun.
Listen, I got to go back a little bit. So because yes, we're at this era now where AI, and let me just throw some Stocktwits stuff because I started Stocktwits probably around the same time. I met Mike when I was in CBS's office, and I just ran into Quincy Smith. Mike was there repping CBS. I had been pitching Mike over email. I didn't put the face to the name of golf company at Golf Now, and Mike was not returning my emails. And it was in the back of my head, Mike Lazerow doesn't return emails. And then I'm at CBS's office selling Wall Strip, and Quincy goes, meet Mike Lazerow. And I'm like, I meet him, and he looks at me, and I'm like, I fucking know this name. And Mike was there to like welcome me to CBS, and I'm like, this fucking guy doesn't return email, Quincy. And then Mike and I got into it. And I'm like, I got a better deal than this piece of shit that CBS is buying. Let's go do this golf deal. And that's where Buddy Media started. And by the way, husband and wife team, Mike and I, when Mike was pitching me the idea on a napkin at Stone Rose, I don't know if this, I read the book. I can't remember if this was in the book, but
It
some of the
was.
stories, some of the stories
It
I've
is.
embellished over time. But we were at Stone Rose. We didn't bring up the husband and wife thing. Mike had an idea. I'm going to buy the top 2 apps on Facebook. Right at the time, Facebook store was launching, so it was much like an AI moment, right? Like Facebook had figured out something. They were going to build
Definitely
an
the
app store. Mike,
excitement.
yeah, the world was like, okay, Mike had a plan. It was very simple. You're going to call the company AceBucks. We're going to create a currency on Facebook. So he was like Bitcoin before Bitcoin, which really would have worked theoretically because Facebook is a currency at some levels, but pivoted a few times. But when we pitched a deal and raised the money in Stone Rose over my StarTAC, we didn't pitch it as a husband and wife team. And then once the deal was done, people were like, you can't back husband. Like in the later rounds, people would come to us and you can't back husband and wife teams, right? So you went through that as well. There is
Yeah, but we think it's a superpower. I mean, we
But
did
you didn't
a lot
have
in
any. You didn't have any VCs say no. We can't back
No,
husband.
we,
and wife.
We
we
did
write
it.
about that in the book.
We write
I mean,
in
we
the
write
early
about going
days
to
with
Silicon Valley and
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
I mean, massive firm, the named partner, open up the laptop. He says, we introduce her. He says, wait, are you guys brother, sister? Are you married? We married. We don't invest in married couples. We closed the computer and just walked out. We didn't even say goodbye.
Yeah.
A lot of companies, a lot of firms did that, but that is what powers us forward. So that is what that rejection is just money for me. Like when someone says no, I just want to prove them wrong. It's
And that's
much
what made
more about
me
proving
seed
other people
that's
wrong.
that's what seed. So you had the combination of Facebook, even before this was 07, so no iPhone. It was me and Mike at a bar arguing over a returned email. He's pitching me Buddy Media, leaving CBS. The company's formed. We call Roger, call Teal. Well, we call Pincus, who calls Teal. Raise and Roger Ehrenberg and with Brian
And Fred Wilson, who said no
Fred
on the
Wilson.
spot. Said it was the most
Did
stupid
he?
idea.
I don't remember that.
100%.
Wow. And then raise the money. A couple pivots along the way, even though the idea was sound, I think, right? And
did
long
3
story
pivots.
short, acquired for $800 million. So they were right at the beginning. This was the beginning of the beginning, and there were no rules. This is what made seed investing great, and I think can make it great again here. I was talking to Fred about this, and it's a great time. He's having a lot of fun seed investing, and that's kind of my barometer, is checking in with people who have had fun before. And you have this combination of open internet again, meaning that the FANG are in control, but there's never been a better time for companies to start, because you can power yourselves up much faster, and you
with fewer engineers.
Yes, fewer engineers. There was no way I should have started Stocktwits. No way someone should have funded me because I'm not an engineer at that era. No, I'm just think about what the engineering uptake was in that era versus what it would be today. Today, it's all about business and plumbing and business and vision and connecting the dots versus before. Even if you connected the dots, you had to hire engineers to build the dots.
Right. And you had to hire a lot of them.
Yeah. So anyway, so I needed to tell that story. Phil, go on. Some more questions from the book?
Wait, can I tell the story that goes right
Sure.
after that? That
Sure.
Howard then is on the board, and we have our first board meeting at the small office. It was kind of
At
epic.
Roger's
Phil,
office.
Oh yeah, right. No. The first one I think was in our office, Mike. But the best part
like
was
this, but 30 pounds heavier.
But Howard had just eaten something, and it's one of his favorite foods, pizzas or something, like a whole pizza. And so we're in the board meeting, and it's literally just 4 or 5 of us. And Howard leans back, puts his belly on the table, shirt up, and falls asleep in the meeting. My favorite story. My favorite Howard story.
And I got kicked off the board. And who did we replace me with? I don't remember. Anyways.
Yeah.
All right, Phil, more stuff from the shoveling shit.
You guys are an inspiration. Your about author photo on shovelingshit.com. Go to shovelingshit.com. When does the book come out?
June 3rd
you
is
can
when it's
pre-order it
published.
now.
Yeah.
So it's
We're giving
coming
it away to
soon.
all our
It's a couple
founders.
months. It's the about author photo. Scroll down a little bit. The about is adorable. You two are just adorbs. It's fantastic. And so my wife and I have been sort of toying. Look at that. Oh, that is just that is so nice.
Mike cleaned
Very,
up
very
there.
nice.
Mike cleaned up there.
Look at him.
Mike
Look at them
Manscaped.
both. They're beautiful.
Yeah, Cass
Very
always looks at that.
nice.
Mike Manscaped.
He manscaped.
Leather. By the way, leather is back. Ellen's sporting leather everywhere.
Ow.
Leather's in, Howie.
Yeah,
you should
leather's
wear
in.
some leather too.
Is it real leather? Is it pleather? What do they call this leather? Is it
it's
real
called
leather?
Pleather.
Pleather. Yeah,
Pleather.
yeah. I do wear it down below. I have
always.
I have the Depends pleather line, which is kind of not. It makes a good product useless, to be honest. So, but I have to spend my money. Listen,
Not
I
very absorbent.
needed to spend my money.
Doesn't
Bill?
absorb well.
I got a
Yeah,
few
but
more
shit-
questions for them.
Go
but
ahead. Go ahead. Keep firing. There's a
So-
million of them. This is
So
like
what's the good and bad about writing a book? I've written a book. I think it's not no longer. And when I wrote a book, someone paid me. You wrote a book out of the love of the game. So it's not just about writing the book. It's now about So this goes to being a startup. The book is the startup. The object, the company is the book, or the product is the book. So tell people what the difference is. How do you treat this versus a company, and what's the goal?
I don't think we've treated it any differently than anything else we've ever done, which is, you know, if we set the goals to get this into as many entrepreneurs' hands as we can, then you have to figure out, okay, what is sales, what's distribution, and then what's all the operations and marketing that go into it to make it a success, right? So for us, we just want to have it in, you know, get it to as many entrepreneurs. But this is massive operations. Like
this feels like
full
a company.
time.
Like it's a, you know, it's a company. Like I am selling. No one sells books, meaning like they go to stores and people don't buy it. So you have to sell. And we really want to get this book out there. And so we're working for it. You know, our friends, including Howard bought 200 books for his portfolio companies. And we're going to do events and we're going to show up and help those companies. So anyone who wants to buy in bulk, shovelingshit.com/bulk, or call us. We are working hard to get it out there. And so if you're going to do anything, what we said is we're going to play to win. So we're not just going to write a book and let it sit there. Like we're going to do it and get it out there. And frankly, we have 50 more years left. And we hope that this book becomes a platform that instead of telling entrepreneurs the same things over and over again, when we invest, they read the book, they get some of the cheat codes, and they just get a little smarter, and we all make more money together. We're still capitalists, even though we want the next 50 years to be about impact.
It's the right attitude. I think and did AI help at all? Like, just question. It doesn't help me in my day-to-day, so you didn't rely on it at all.
Because the voice. I mean, the voice. Writing a book with Kass is the hardest thing that I've ever done with her. She may say giving birth was harder, but
she's a wimp. Well, giving birth.
Yeah, it was just kind of. I'd write a chapter, and she'd be like, "I don't like it."
Well,
listen, 35 pounds lighter.
It's just
giving birth to something, but at your fighting weight, giving birth is like,
well, give me feedback.
Here it is.
Listen, Mike, at the end of the day, I had kept all the lessons over the years. We probably had 30 plus lessons I had already written down, and I would scaffold each chapter. I'd give it to Mike after I kind of wrote it. I'm not the best writer, he is. And I'd just tell him the truth. Like, I don't like it. And it was interesting to see us in the same lane, right? And have that feedback. And Mike did not like that. I like the process of writing.
I like feedback, but just saying you don't like something, it was like, okay, you don't like it. What specifically don't you like? Like, what should I change? The stories, the tone?
It's really fascinating that you're doing this. I at first I'm like, don't do it. As I said, because I've written a book, I got paid up front, and then now I realize I wish I hadn't got paid up front, done the book, named the book what I wanted. So I couldn't write a better book. It's called Wall Strip Edge. I wanted to call it the Twitter trend, and the people who paid for the book go, we bought your company, we're calling it the Wall Strip Edge. I go, big mistake. And if I just called it the Twitter trend and printed it myself 20 years later, people go, that guy's smart, right? So the cover covered up the real story of the book, whereas your cover, written by yourself, controlled by yourself, tells a much better story.
So
it's a good lesson.
100% control. You guys have had 100% control over how it goes, and
so
we call it.
Yeah,
we learned a lot from our friends, right? Like Gary Vaynerchuk started his empire in our conference room. He's written a bunch of books. We set out to say we don't care about making money off the book, right? Like, we're donating the proceeds, the cycle for survival. However, we want to own all of the IP because it's our life, right? So even if someone showed up and paid us money, which I don't think they would have. I mean, we're not really kind of pay money for a book type of people. And so this lets us do a lot of stuff. So we have a community, the Founders Farm. We've got, ideas for how to leverage this community. And we just believe that if, an entrepreneur with a shovel is unstoppable. And so the rest of our life we'll be working with entrepreneurs in some way.
So you have a community, and you're going to have events, and there's going to be a whole ecosystem that you're going to build around the book.
That's our goal.
It's already happening. Yes.
Good for you.
Beautiful.
I mean, I say screw the entrepreneurs, but that's cut that out. I
Said
say
like
edit
a
that out.
seed investor.
What let's Mike, you and I and Cass, we've done hundreds of companies. We sometimes overlap, sometimes don't. What's the number? If I go, I'm going to ask you first, Cass. What's the number as an operator more than a salesperson? And you live with a salesperson. What's the number one thing that you're a sucker for in a founder?
So I like when founders know what they don't know, right? So I like the ones that say, I'm an expert in this, and I'm going to go and hire the other experts to fill all my gaps. That right then, like, I'm like, this is going to be a great company. If they know how to do that, and they have intention, and they've surrounded themselves with people that fill in their gaps, sign me up.
Mike?
I love all entrepreneurs. I'm a sucker for entrepreneurs. People say I'm a drunk baby when I invest. I think
you're more the drunk baby, more than even me. I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. But the reason why I work so well with Cass is I bring it to Cass, and 9 out of 10 times she's like, you're an idiot. Like, why? Why are you wasting my time? But when I bring stuff like Scopely and Liquid Death and, crazy things that maybe others wouldn't look at, she can look at not just why it won't work, but what will happen if it does work. And that's really what venture is about. Like, early stage investing there are 1,000 reasons why these companies should not work out. Like, how did Liquid Death create over $1 billion business out of water in a can, the building blocks of life surrounded by like aluminum, right?
Right.
They did it because of marketing and because Cass saw Mike Lazerow and thought that he was a winner. And I think that it was so easy to say, oh, it's not going to work because of distribution or this or that, or
never done it before.
So,
right?
Entrepreneurs, like, they first come to you and they're crazy ideas. And at some point it's like, oh yeah, of course it exists.
Yeah, there's never been a better time right now to be a salesman and marketer. Marketing's the new engineering. So Cass,
it's never been a better time to be a founder. I mean, AI is the biggest gift to founders.
It's also never been a worse time to be a founder if you get the wrong advice. So again, like, two things can be true. It's never been a better time to be a founder. It probably hasn't changed over the last 20 years as tech just continues to accelerate, but it's never been a worse time to take money from the wrong investor, as we've learned too.
That's
and I think,
for sure.
So I think those two things have to still be true. You can match a great jockey with a bad cap table and things will go wrong. I don't think people pay enough attention to that. And that's something you and the three of us have always talked about. It's just, you guys raised money at a $2 million valuation. It's not like you couldn't make money still. And I don't think people really can appreciate that. We won't get into the details there, but like, it's not like you guys ever felt ripped off. Was there a point where you just said, like, we could start, the deal wasn't good enough? Like, for founders out there that just think it's all about like being Elon Musk and Mark Zuckerberg and owning these separate share classes, and can you
like
speak
pride.
to that?
It's like their ego. It's miserable. It's all about ego. I hate that.
Yeah. There is I think that could be starting to switch, which is why I'm finally excited again, is people will talk to us and I explain to them how you have to align cap table with, you can't just do a deal to do a deal. The cap table does matter. And I think we're getting back to some of that as well. And shoveling shit is, a lot of time you're shoveling shit because you structured everything wrong. You had everything right, but you can't get out of the deal because your cap table's shit. So I think we're entering an era of that. Phil, do we miss anything, or we want to move on?
Great insight, Cass, about ego. It's the same thing with investing, and it's building a company, investing. People that have problems investing don't admit when they're wrong, and so they wind up nursing a loser. They're holding on to a loser all the way down, believing, and somehow their own identity is tied up in it. Same thing. And you guys have a, if I'm not mistaken, you guys have a cheat code about that and about, cutting losers and pivoting and that whole thing.
Let her fly.
Okay. So we're going to cover a couple quick charts and then I have a comment at the end. Gold is making an all-time high today. Howie, did you have some, fucking gold, man.
I say there's a market for somebody, right? Like the world needs some stability. Like, when things get chaotic, and they are, I've talked about this for about a year, Gold, Goldman, and Google, right? Meaning you can own 500 stocks or you can own 3 rare assets, right, that will give you the coverage of what you need. You can be over diversified, something that happens in all of our, especially in seed portfolios like us. We over diversify because we don't know which one's going to work. But in the public markets, much like a Walgreens, people just have too many stocks. And there part of the game that I like to play is how few stocks could I have done this with and still slept at night. And so last year I came up with the 3 Gs, which is gold, Google, and Goldman, and they've just done fine. Goldman at all-time highs, Google at all-time highs, and gold at all-time highs. Now, I don't know what that means. We could have 10 shows that all of us have our opinions on how these 3 assets in this world today are at the same time hitting all-time highs. My interpretation is I don't understand. It's telling us something. One, that Goldman has a great business as a new money has been created and endorsed by Trump and the family, and the czar and all these other people. Goldman has never had less competition to do its core job better, right? They've trimmed all the nonsense they were chasing for the last 20 years because they were victims of doing the same mistakes that everybody did in a world of zero interest rates. They're back focused on what their main grift is, which is charging countries 2% to get them out of bad trades that Goldman put them in. No offense, Mike. And then
you're not supposed to say it out loud.
That's the secret. And then Google we talked about, and then gold, right? In an era that Bitcoin is the new gold, in an era of volatility, I think gold, we're learning that in an era of volatility, and the volatility may just be someone like Trump, who's just constantly changing his mind and attention seeking. Gold may be less volatile than Bitcoin, even though Bitcoin may be the better product in 100 years. Gold is just being a old man's proxy for the people that are yelling at their screens saying the end of the world. So it's one of the most fascinating 3 things that I've noticed. And there's many fascinating things as we get to AI. Mike, go ahead.
Yeah, the only other thing I'd add, the 3 Gs, only one of them, gold, you can buy at Costco.
Oh.
Wow. Costco, all-time high, first
Thank you.
time it ever closed
Thank
above
you,
1,000. We have Parekh, we have that chart too. Costco closed above 1,000 yesterday for the first time ever.
I was hoping.
And now it's up like another $15. That was the greatest segue ever, Parekh. Up another $15 today. It's trading at like 1,020. Look at that chart.
Here's what this market has. This market has. We have some incredible. This is something that's very different about stocks and trends with friends, is that companies are rare assets. Google's a rare asset, where we're talking about spinning off a rare asset within the rare asset. Spotify is a rare asset. Apple should have killed them. Amazon should have killed them. Netflix is a rare asset. Spending trillions of dollars to make movies was supposed to be a bad idea. What else is a rare asset? Gold, Bitcoin. Costco's a rare asset. Why? What the fuck? I get a headache if I look at one, but yet millions of people fucking rely on Costco every day with their membership. So we have Palantir, rare asset, part meme, part government, right? So we've never been in a time, other than maybe the Nifty 50, I guess, Michael, back then, we've never been in a time where companies are rare assets with cash flows. So rare assets are generally notified as a piece of real estate that you can't copy somewhere else. Costco is just a rare asset. Google is a rare asset. So this is a moment in history where technology meets culture, meets execution, meets digital, now meets AI, where public companies become rare assets. It's just a fascinating thing to me. I don't know what it means, and nothing ever goes, a tree doesn't go straight to the sky. So this is truly not financial advice, but this is what the market is screaming at you, is you're mispricing things. You're pricing them on cash flow when they should be priced as rare assets. And that's the only explanation I have. That doesn't mean I'm comfortable owning these things at these prices, but that's what's going on. Go ahead, Phil.
Okay, so last thing, that was well stated, Howie. I don't know when you got to be such an orator, but that was
because I've been saying it for 10
very
years.
Nicely said. Okay, so last thing, this is just the last little segment here. Don't be an idiot. For the next 100 days, daylight will be increasing every day by 2 or more minutes per day. So days are getting longer at an accelerating rate. They're going to be increasing for 2 minutes a day for the next 100 days. This is the time of the year. It's the second half of winter. It's practically spring. This is the time of year to get outside. This is the time of year to move your body. This is the time of year to be expansive in your thinking. We had great entrepreneurs on today talking really about creative ideas and building things. Now is the time to be expansive. Now is the time to get outside, move your body. Now is the time to be creative. Get a good pair of shoes, get yourself some Asics or Hokas or whatever, new pair, and get the hell outside. Let your brain start working. Let it start marinating and move your body. Woo!
And a good hat.
I think it's the worst idea of the show.
What do you mean,
come
Howard?
on, man. That's a great
Howard,
idea. Nature. There's all
mental
truth
health?
in nature. Yeah.
Listen, I
Mental
went
health.
outside. Yes, here. Let me tell you about outside. Here's what's outside. Fucking coyotes. You know what else is outside? Fire. You know what else is outside? A terrible, terrible time on the golf course. I mean, inside, none of this happens.
No,
Inside,
no,
it's just
no.
nothing but
Phil's-
trading meme coins and degeneracy and
Phil's
and
100%
AI
right.
women. No, Phil is always right. All three of us went outside and lost a lot of weight. So I'm all for going outside and drinking a little liquid death. All right. One
It was
tip.
incredible
Mike,
having you guys here today, by the way.
yeah, no, just one
Amazing
tip.
seeing
What's
you.
your
I
favorite
love you
company right
guys.
now, Mike? What's the company that blows your mind in your portfolio that just is weird and wonderful?
I mean, for me, it's Liquid Death. I mean, it's a company that, never before have we seen one brand lead in multiple categories like this: still, sparkling, flavored, iced teas, soda replacements are the big, product. And so it's a company that we love the founder, who had a creative vision, who had
he's great on LinkedIn. Even though I don't use LinkedIn, that's his platform of choice for marketing. I'd follow that guy
data
there.
to figure out what brand to launch. He was basically a marketing vessel looking for a brand, and he used data and the way people reacted early on to the brand.
As I say, marketing's the new engineering, and that guy is one of the first movers.
It's just incredible.
You guys were early movers in marketing as engineering. Yeah, telling stories, marketing, the ads are great. I talk about Celsius all the time because I said, once your shelf space is, like Amazon says, your margins are what we come for, and your shelf space is what we come for. So how do you think about that?
So consumers win. And so the reason why it sells so fast and the reason why it's grown so fast is that consumers love it. And so when people love your product, good things happen. Try replacing Liquid Death if you're a retailer with Fiji in a can. That's just not going to happen. It's not going to.
It's cool.
Work well
like,
for you,
if
right?
you think about this generation,
friend, right?
Yes.
Right. It's like we're not drinking as much.
Cass,
health.
You got a different one.
No, actually, I don't. I've always said the same thing.
Wow.
Like, look,
Consensus.
when Mike came to me and said, I know this is going to sound crazy, but we've got to be the first investors in this company. I literally ripped him one, went to bed. And as I was sitting there going to sleep.
Sorry, you ripped one or you ripped him one? Because there's a big difference.
She ripped me.
I ripped him one. And then I was going to sleep and started looking at, Mike Cesario's, all his marketing, what he did to come up with this idea. I said, holy shit, this is going to be.
And his wife's there behind him too, as a great editor. She was she's a star too, right? Or at the company.
I've never met his wife.
I've never met his wife.
So what's interesting about Consensus, it came to my house. Mike shipped me a case, right? I was going to invest no matter what, but Mike shipped me a case. And the reactions between Ellen, Rachel, and Max were this is why I don't like sharing my ideas with too many people, because I'm always going to get confused, right? So consensus is interesting, but I don't know if I always fall for it. But my son thought it was awesome.
The greatest thing.
My daughter thought it was the dumbest thing ever. And Ellen demanded that I not write a check until she heard it was you guys. She said, okay, but I don't like it. And so luckily we wrote the check. So thanks to you on that one. What a great episode. We got to have you back. You guys have so much knowledge that we didn't get to. And buy the book. So buy the book.
Shovelingshit.com. Book comes out in June. You don't want to miss it. It's like
pre-order now.
The hard thing about hard things, except for better and nicer and funnier.
Thank you. Thanks for
joining us.
Thank you.
See you guys. Much love.